Can't name all 166 regular, bonus, special, and mega figures announced in the collection so far? Not a problem. Here is the who, what, and huh of the Eaglemoss Marvel Movie Collection so far. Hello everyone, mmcfan here. Welcome to my first video in my new Who, What and Huh series, which aims to make different aspects of the collection as crystal clear as possible. Over the next few weeks I'll be covering the premium armors, the metal heavyweights in America, the different Hulks, the HMV releases, and many other things that people sometimes find a little bit confusing. But first up, I'm going to give you a walkthrough everything released so far. Just quickly, this video is up to date as of January 2021. And all the images used in the video are from my Facebook photo album called The Collection, which is updated in real time whenever new information or images are released. So if you're watching this video a few months later, there's probably new things to explore. So I'll pop the link in the description and you can see what's coming up next. Release orders and dates will vary by country. These particular images are for the UK release. So here we go, the collection started in 2016 with the original lineup, which you may recognise from all the TV ads that came out at the time, and all the online advertising that you will have seen as well. The first 4 or 5 were also released in 2015 in a handful of places just as the trial run, but it officially launched on the 5th of May 2016, before anyone in the comments tells me they found Iron Man at a service station the year before. That always happens. Yes, there was a trial run, but the official thing started on the 5th of May 2016. These ones were produced in much larger production runs than we have now. Boxes upon boxes of the first 3 in particular went to all the W.H. Smith stores in the country. These were all awesome, and obviously no repeated characters at this very early stage. Then by issue 12 or so they started appearing in newsagents in much fewer numbers, but they were still very easy to find. At this point they started exploring some secondary characters like Lady Sif and the villains like Malekith, Ultron, but still had main ones dotted here and there. Issue 17, Captain America from the Winter Soldier, that marked our first repeated character, but people loved that suit, so they weren't too upset at the time. Then as the collection turned a year old, we finally found ourselves with Hawkeye, which they'd kept everyone waiting on for quite some time. People weren't crazy about Coulson, the Chitauri, or how tiny that Nebula is, but it was still great to see all these new characters, aside from I'm Patriot, which even then was a vastly different suit to the issue 11 War Machine. So once we get to issues 31 to 40, this is where Eaglemoss found themselves having to include more repeats and more side characters, as the main ones, they'd pretty much exhausted them all. Doctor Strange entering the collection was a big deal, as this was the first time a character was included from a film that released after the collection had actually started, so that was cool to see. Peggy, Vision, Quicksilver, all strong additions, but everything else here was either a lesser-known character or a repeat. Then we hit issues 41 to 50. This was when I personally struggled to find them in shops near me. Most people went to subscription at this point or went to online only from this point. And from issue 50 is when I became a subscriber myself. These are actually stronger than a lot of the ones on the previous slide, with World War II Cap being the only repeat and everything else being new. And Falcon, Mordo, Curse, Yondu, Ancient One, Crossbones, they were all very welcome additions. Then, however, we hit what I'm calling our first slump in the collection. Not being able to cover Spider-Man Homecoming meant Eaglemoss had to do a little stretching between the release of Guardians 2 and the release of Ragnarok, and this is when many people left the collection. The only ones here I loved were Ego, Scourge, and Gladiator Thor. The rest were fine as filler issues, but to have so many filler characters on the trot, including 2 faceless Hydra soldiers and all of the Warriors 3, within the same 10 issues as well, it wasn't a great time, not going to lie. To this day, Gladiator Thor is the only one in this image that there isn't always an abundance of stock of on the web shop, so this was the least popular 10 that they did in a row. The slump continues sort of into the next lot, World War II Bucky and another War Machine, but then the collection noticeably picked up with Iron Man Mark 1, Mantis, Hela, some really excellent choices there that people have been waiting for, and more Ragnarok figures entering the collection too. This is also when the Spider-Man gap effect essentially ended because Black Panther was then released in cinemas and then they could start covering that. Which brings us on to issues 71 to 80, originally going to be the final 10 of the collection before the first extension was announced past issue 80. In fact, images of issue 80 were out before they even formally acknowledged that they'd be going to 120, even though we all kind of knew that that was happening. These were all really strong additions. Aside from Valkyrie, which I know everyone hated, me included, mostly new prominent characters, but even the repeats like Nebula and Cap, they were markedly better than the last time we saw them, so that was all good. Two Killmongers so close together was very odd though. Both are great figures, but they really should have spaced those out a bit more. Then we hit the extension. Kraglin and Zola weren't hugely thrilling, but I believe Zola was delayed massively due to having to remove these ridiculous glasses, which is why he's only now appearing. That still makes me laugh that those images of the glasses, they went up on the web shop anyway. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of those. Everything else here is great, especially the addition of Iron Spider, which was a revolutionary thing in the collection because we all assumed Spider-Man was a complete no-go due to all the licensing issues with Sony, but because Disney owned this particular suit, they were actually able to include it, which was really great. It's a shame they leaked it by accident when they were updating one of their web pages, but it's still exciting. Scarlet Witch's face was pretty poor, but aside from that, even the repeats at this stage were quite welcome choices, and they were spread out nicely between new characters, and made for a pretty strong bunch. Then, as we get closer to 100, this is when repeats really started overtaking new characters, and that hasn't really changed since. Claw, Zuri, Captain Marvel, they're the only new characters here, though to be fair, a lot of these repeats were very popular at the time. And at this point, we of course reached the landmark 100th issue, which was a battle-damaged Mark 42 suit from Iron Man 3. A bit of a tame choice, in my opinion, but this was one of the most requested armors. So, you know, if you're going to do another Iron Man, at least it was this one. And then we hit Captain Marvel Endgame land, where aside from the occasional surprise choice like Nakia, Janet Van Dyne, and Wakabi, we focused on the same two films for so long. A lot of the Endgame ones were pretty awesome and sold out really, really quickly, but the Captain Marvel ones have not been anywhere near as popular, and alternating between two films is really starting to make a lot of people feel a bit of fatigue with the collection, which is a shame. And now this is what I'm labelling the second major slump of the collection. With Eaglemoss not able to cover Far From Home and Phase 4 delayed for obvious reasons, the duplicates are having to come thick and fast. We've got another Ant-Man, another War Machine, another Gamora, another Iron Man, Talos in his Keller disguise, and another Korath. I mean, Korath is not a character you need to repeat at all. Don't get me wrong, some of these are great figures, especially Rocket and the Mark 85. And anyone that missed the originals got a second chance, or a third chance in some cases, to pick up some of these main characters. So they're not all bad, it's just for people that have been subscribed since the beginning, it's getting to be a bit of a slap in the face. And here we are in 2021, where we found ourselves with the second extension, which they announced down to the wire again. Korath had already come out and they still hadn't confirmed it. A ton more duplicate characters revealed. Some of them are quite inventive, like Ultron Mark 1, and the Valkyrie is markedly improved. I mean, you just have to watch my video on when that was announced to know my thoughts on that. But some are downright lazy, like a powerless Doctor Strange and Drax in his prison trousers. Why are they doing this to us, really? But despite the disappointment of the last few that have been revealed, we still have 12 more to go. We have no idea who they're going to be. Hopefully some new characters in there. But they're going to take us to October 2021, where the collection ends. Unless, of course, they extend it again. I think it's going to be really telling how these duplicates sell. If the duplicates still sell well, then I imagine it will just keep on going. But if people really go, you know what, I only want new characters, then they might be in trouble. We'll see what happens. But of course, it doesn't stop there. We also have special editions. These used to come out every 8 issues or so, but this quickly became whenever they felt like it, whenever they had a new one that they wanted to release. We went from 2 or 3 a year to about 4 or 5 when Ragnarok and Infinity War kicked in, but this has now died right down again. In fact, specials 9 through to 17 are all from the same 3 films, Ragnarok, Infinity War and Endgame. Gladiator Hulk and Cull Obsidian are the rarest of the bunch by an absolute mile. Gladiator Hulk, he arrived damaged 2/3 of the time, which depleted the stock really quickly, and Cull Obsidian never came to the web shop as an in-stock item. It was on pre-order, and then they just put it straight into out of stock and cancelled a load of the pre-orders, so they now both fetch big bucks. And as I say, these have now slowed right down with the superb E3 rounding off 2020 and no specials yet planned for 2021, but I'll keep you updated if this changes. And then we have the bonus editions. I will have more videos on these because some are like gold dust and every country handles them differently. But essentially we have an alternative pose for Hulk, which only came as a 1/16 figure in France and in Spain. Otherwise that pose was used for the Mega in all the other countries. The first version of Rocket, which was a free gift for subscribers and occasionally appears on the web shop, but not very often anymore. And then the premium armors. These are supposed to come out every 16 issues for premium subscribers, but they've failed to meet that deadline for the last 4 of them, I think, and only the first 3 ever appear on the web shop from time to time in the UK, but they're easier to grab in other countries. It's all a bit inconsistent. Lastly, we have the Mega Specials. These aren't really part of the main collection, so you're not going to hear much about them from me because they're greatly exaggerated in both size and definitely price. The sales on these are also crazy. You can often pick them up for half price or even better than half price after like a month on the web shop. It's a bit ridiculous. The margins must be crazy on them. There have been 10 so far, with at least 1 more on the way, which is Iron Man later this year. I personally think Iron Spider is easily the coolest of the bunch. Still here? Thank you very much for sticking with me, whether you listen to me rabbiting on all the way through or just fast forwarded so you could see all of the images. Either is absolutely fine with me. The link to the folder with these images in is in the description. As I say, if anything changes, go straight there for all the latest images. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe right here on YouTube, and join the discussion group for all the latest Marvel Movie Collection content. Keep on collecting.